Due to the graphic nature of this urban legend, listener discretion is advised. This episode includes depictions of body horror and discussions of racism and necrophilia. We advise extreme caution for children under 13. Angela needed to be knocked down a peg. All the other nurses agreed. She was a grouch and a tattletale and a straight-up, well, you know. But it was you who actually came up with the plan, because you were the one that had to take the bodies down to the morgue in the basement of the hospital. It would be a simple thing to borrow a severed foot for a few hours, take it to the on-call room, give her a good scare. You put it under Angela's pillow, right next to her romance novel, then tiptoe over to the nurse's station to watch the fireworks. She walks in, shutting the door behind her. There's a rustling. Then, a deafening scream. You expect her to run out. But there's nothing. Only silence. You wait for what feels like an eternity and consider going back to work. But some small part of you can't let it go. So you open the door and step inside. At first, you can't find the foot. She's crouched in the corner, back to you, shaking with what you hope is laughter. You reach forward to tap on her shoulder, but she turns before you can. You expect her to yell, but she doesn't. Because something's in her mouth. It's the human foot. And she's chewing. Welcome to Haunted Places, a Parcast original. I'm Greg Polson. Today's episode is part of our Urban Legends series. Every Tuesday, we explore those chilling stories you hear secondhand, the kind that seem made up, but contain a kernel of truth. Urban Legends is only on Spotify, so keep listening here to never miss an episode. But don't forget to come back each Thursday for a classic episode of Haunted Places, covering yet another ghost-filled locale. You can find episodes of Haunted Places and all other Parcast originals for free on Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To stream Haunted Places for free on Spotify, just open the app and type Haunted Places in the search bar. At Parcast, we're grateful for you, our listeners. You allow us to do what we love. Let us know how we're doing. Reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Parcast and Twitter at Parcast Network. The Cadaver arm has its own number in Ernest W. Bachman's Type and Motif Index of the Folktales of England and North America, and has been recorded as far back as the 1920s. It seems that med students and hospital employees always need to blow off steam after trying or tragic days. And what's to stop would-be pranksters from proving that they aren't scared with the very source of their anxiety, their dead patients? There are many variations on these cadaver pranks. Sometimes it's a severed foot, sometimes a hand, sometimes a whole arm. It might be hidden in the victim's bed or tied to the pull switch of her lamp. Despite the myriad differences in each version, the victim is almost always a woman. She's either obnoxious, mean, or easily frightened. She has to be punished for something. But the prank goes too far. Her hair turns white, and she loses permanent touch with reality, chewing on the appendage that traumatized her. Or she's found dead, with the severed hand around her throat. Most popularly told in Alvin Schwartz's More Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark as The Dead Man's Hand, the family of body parts used in a prank stories help medical professionals enforce cultural expectations when it comes to both emotional distance and humility. Sam had heard of the illustrious Order of Silver and Snake on her first campus tour. The guide would neither confirm or deny that the last 5 surgeon generals had been members. but her interest was piqued. Supposedly, it was a club comprised of the country's elite. If you wanted to be at the forefront of medical discovery, or land in the best possible residency, you needed connections only the Order could provide, and they were more than happy to give them to you. The only price was your unflinching obedience. Sam didn't know which distinguished accomplishment would draw their eyes, so she achieved all she could. It turned out to be as simple as being open to the right come on at a party, but sometimes achievement for achievement's sake was good. Now she'd survived the interviews, the staged kidnapping, the weeks of doing everything her mentor asked of her. There was only one more ritual to complete to prove her everlasting loyalty. While they were both in med school, her best friend Jessica hadn't been as interested in pursuing excellence as Sam had been. She had squeamish tendencies. She struggled through every dissection, her face tinged green all through the ear. She would gulp through the whole process and run to the bathroom what felt like once every 15 minutes. Sam was confident that Jessica would overcome her fear in time, but the Order had other plans. They wanted Sam to help Jessica with a little exposure therapy, surprise her with a severed body part somewhere it shouldn't be, lock her in, and let poor, shy, squeamish little Jessica get over her aversion. Sam and Jessica had gone through undergrad together. They'd been lab partners since freshman year, and had been nearly inseparable since then. She didn't want to hurt her. Her mentor, Dylan, told her it was nothing to worry about. He reminded her that several people across campus would be carrying out their own similar tasks. Besides, he pushed, it would be good for her in the long run. Everyone needed a good scare every now and then. It made you feel alive. But Sam couldn't help but imagine what Jessica would look like, shivering in the darkness, afraid to touch the light string again, because a cadaver hand was holding on to it. She would curl into herself, shaking slightly, calling for help. Sam tried to remind herself that it was all temporary. She would be there to unlock the door at the end. Maybe it really would toughen Jessica up. And if she was toughened up, Sam could help Jessica rise along with her. Maybe this could strengthen their relationship. Yes, Sam was resolved. She would really be helping Jessica if she did this right. Now, she only had to obtain the cadaver hand. Sam loitered around the building as everyone emptied out of the labs. She played games on her phone and did a few assignments for class. Then she headed towards the corpse storage, nearly running straight into the path of the med school's one lone janitor. He looked like he'd worked there since the university had been founded 300 years ago, but he had a memory like a steel trap. He'd remember a suspicious first year creeping around after hours, especially if a body part went missing shortly after. She darted into the bathroom stall as he turned in her direction. The door squeaked open. She stood on top of the toilet, holding her breath. The janitor whistled as he cleaned, creeping closer to the stall. Her shoes scuffed the wall. The janitor pushed against the door. The whistling stopped. He pushed harder. Sam bit her tongue to avoid making a sound. There was a long pause. Then, with a weary sigh, he gave up and opened the next one. Sam stayed as still as she could, her knees locking, as she waited for the janitor to leave. He took his time, cleaning everything thoroughly and shutting off the light when he left. Sam counted to 30 in her head, and then stepped down from the toilet seat. Her legs buckled as her stiff muscles finally released. She took a tentative step forward, then another. She opened the door slowly and peered into the dark hallway. Empty. Wasting no time, she dashed to her anatomy lab. Dylan had at least provided her with a skeleton key. The briny smell of formaldehyde was overwhelming as she unlocked the door and stepped inside. She shivered, but she wasn't sure if it was from the cold or nerves. She pulled open a freezer, her gaze locking with the cloudy, vacant eyes of a corpse. She tried to look anywhere else, but she only succeeded in drawing her eyes to the deceased woman's gray and leathery skin. In the gloom of the chilled room, the illusions of the classroom came tumbling down. This wasn't a specimen. This was a person. Someone who she was going to cut apart in order to guarantee her future success. She took a deep breath and whispered a short apology. Then she pulled the bone saw from her bag and got to work. The body felt almost gelatinous in her hands. She forced the serrated blade through the layers of skin, fat, and tissue to find the joint. A whistle came from down the hall. The janitor was coming back. Sam paused. She waited for the old man to burst in and catch her, uncertain of what sort of crime they would charge her with. Was it grave robbing if the body wasn't in a grave? The whistle carried farther down the hall. She resumed her progress. The noise of the saw grating against bone was too loud in the quiet space. It drowned out the ambient hum of the fridges, forcing her to hear each infinitesimal cut into the body. The serrated edge lodged itself in the ulna. Sam pushed against it. She gripped the cadaver tightly with her other hand. In her rattled state, it felt almost like the corpse was trying to hold her hand. She shoved her discomfort to the side and forced her weight more firmly behind the saw, cutting through the last shards of bone. All that was left was another flimsy layer of fat, tissue, and skin. Sam was decisive with her blade this time, slicing through the skin so deftly that the hand fell away, and the bone saw clattered against the metal of the fridge. She swore under her breath, her ears straining for any sounds of whistling or approaching footsteps. The resounding silence had never been so comforting. Sam was alone, clutching the severed hand of a dead person. Next, Sam's prank does not go over well. Now, back to the story. Sam never wanted to be in this position. She had been forced by the Order of Silver and Snake to sever a hand from a dead body and use it to scare her friend. It was an extreme request, but the Order would help her more than any conventional mentorship or financial windfall ever could. If that meant locking her oldest college friend in a closet with a cadaver hand glued to a small chain light switch, so be it. She told herself that it would be good for Jessica, that she was stronger than she looked. Then she snuck into the cadaver storage lab and cut off the hand herself. There was no going back now. At least she didn't have to wait long. Worried about the potential stink, Sam had arranged to meet up with her friend-turned-victim only a few hours later. Jessica beamed at Sam from across the quad. Sam felt her doubts swelling, no matter how hard she tried to force them down. Jessica thought they were meeting for coffee to plan out a study schedule for the next semester, before judging people on Instagram together. Sam's heart sank as she realized she would be lucky if Jessica would ever want to speak with her after this, much less sign up for classes together. Sam looped her arm through Jessica's and asked if they could make a quick stop before heading to the beanery. Jessica joked that it would give her time to reapply her gloss before she tried to woo the barista. They'd been locked in a war of attraction for the past month. Sam asked if they could make a quick stop at the med school, saying she'd left her purse in one of the classrooms. Jessica agreed. Once there, Sam couldn't keep her eyes off the closet at the end of the hall. The hand was waiting inside. She took a deep breath. Jessica asked her if something was wrong. Sam shook her head. The moment of truth had arrived. She told Jessica that she just remembered that she actually left her purse in the broom closet earlier. Jessica blinked at her. Then she smiled and congratulated Sam on going full Grey's Anatomy. Sam nodded nervously, even though the idea of hooking up at a broom closet sounded vastly unsanitary. Sam faked a sigh of relief and told Jessica she was the best friend a girl could have. Jessica smiled and skipped toward the closet. She opened the door and threw a wink Sam's way before slipping inside. The door closed behind her. Dylan stepped out from a nearby classroom and locked the door with the key he'd lent to Sam. He hit the light switch for the hallway as well, killing the fluorescents that usually bathed the corridor in stark white. Sam approached the door slowly. She could see the handle rattling in the half-light from the windows. Jessica was trying to get out. Dylan jumped away from the door as a loud bang echoed through the hallway. Sam hid her smile. Jessica was ramming her body into the door, trying to get it open. Sam and Jessica had bonded over their tenacity once upon a time. She was glad to see that Jessica's was still intact. But then, the hallway went silent. A scream cut through the tentative peace. Then, a string of desperate pleas. Jessica had found the hand, but it wasn't clear if she deduced what it was. She was hyperventilating, her breath so loud that they could be heard through the solid oak. Sam opened her mouth to tell Jessica that things were okay. Dylan grabbed her harshly, clamping his hand over her mouth. He whispered in her ear that she needed to keep quiet. She pushed him off of her, pressing her ear to the door. She could hear Jessica sobbing on the other side. Sam placed her hand on the wood, willing Jessica to be okay, trying to tell her telepathically that she could do this. Jessica's gasps of fear got louder. Something dropped to the ground. Another series of screams carried through the wood, over and over again. Something rammed against the door again. The door handle jiggled. Dylan was chuckling to himself. This was going too far. Sam put her hand on the handle, but Dylan pulled her away, slamming her into the wall. They struggled as the muffled screams continued. The banging intensified. Sam found her strength. She drew a fist back and punched Dylan in the nose. At that exact moment, Jessica's screams stopped. Dylan and Sam breathed heavily in the silence, watching each other like boxers between bouts. Then Dylan laughed. He called Jessica a drama queen and said they should have filmed it. Jessica's little breakdown could have shot them into viral stardom. Her student loans would be paid off in a heartbeat. Sam demanded the key. Dylan gave it to her. Her hand shook violently as she unlocked the door. A small, bright beam of light extended straight up to the severed hand on the string. It appeared Jessica had used the flashlight app on her phone to get a better look at things. She was being awfully quiet now. Sam had expected for the other girl to run into her arms, calling Sam a hero. She didn't like the silence that greeted her instead. Sam reached over the cadaver hand to pull higher up on the cord. When the light clicked on, a haze of soft yellow light coated the closet. Skeletal shelves popped into view, holding boxes of latex gloves, paper towels, gallons and gallons of soap. The eggshell paint on the walls looked sickly. She heard Dylan mutter a string of curse words behind her and turned to look at him. He was turning the same shade of green that Jessica did during dissections. She followed his gaze back to the closet. Jessica was on the floor, hunched in on herself, just as Dylan had predicted. Sam held her hand out. Jessica didn't take it. She didn't even appear to notice Sam was there. Her glassy eyes stared up toward the severed hand. Sam touched Jessica's shoulder. It was cold. She moved her arm down Jessica's until she found the prominent vein in her wrist. There was no pulse. the severed hand swung merrily through the air, casting a moving shadow of dark fingers over Jessica's still face, like it was gently stroking the face of its victim. Sam was going to be sick. Dissecting a cadaver is often considered the most formative trial by fire med students face. From day one, you're forced to confront mortality and sit with it for a full semester. It feels unnatural, but overcoming unease around open bodies, both living and dead, is part of becoming a medical professional. Frederick W. Hafferty wrote in the Journal of Health and Social Behavior that cadaver stories and pranks serve to build community among a medical school's cohort by creating a shared standard of humor that outsiders might find macabre or disturbing. It's a normalization of the unsettling that will hopefully help them make the hard choices when it comes to life and death. Many of these passed-down stories are more raunchy than tragic. A young man might pretend to be struggling at a urinal, only to throw down a severed penis as he walks out, saying, "It never worked anyway." A student might rig a corpse with electricity keyed to the lab's light switch in an attempt to convince the school's janitor that the zombie apocalypse has begun. But the morbid nature of these pranks is not the only unseeming part of this practice. Historian Michael Sapol points out a pattern of racialized marginalization and cruelty in the way that 19th century medical students utilized their cadavers, many of which were illegally obtained from communities of color. In his book, A Traffic of Dead Bodies, Anatomy and Embodied Social Identity in 19th Century America, he relates an 1835 newspaper report that describes a series of escalating pranks between med school roommates that began with sneaking the corpse into one of their beds and ended in cannibalism. Neil Rosa, a psychologist at the University of Illinois, points out that pranks can invite the mind to re-examine how they might have done things differently in order to avoid the embarrassing outcome. This process is called counterfactual thinking, and it's one of the major ways that we self-examine and learn our roles in society, however limiting or oppressive those roles may be. In some ways, the tragic escalation of the prank in the cadaver's hand reflects a societal guilt within the shared memory of medical students. The target of the prank is almost always a woman who has stepped out of line or doesn't fit in with the group, either overconfident or too faint of heart to cut it in a medical environment. While the prank might be told as a humorous anecdote with a different outcome, the tragic conclusion asks, what was so funny in the first place? Was it death? Was it humiliation? Or some sadistic mix of the two? It's no surprise that a new permutation of the legend involves a supernatural component, as the severed hand is found wrapped around the victim's neck. It appears the former owner of the hand doesn't get the joke, which suggests the newly dead victim won't either. Thanks again for tuning in to Haunted Places. We'll be back on Thursday with a new episode. And don't forget to come back on Tuesday for our Urban Legends series, available only on Spotify. You can find more episodes of Haunted Places and all other Parcast originals for free on Spotify. Not only does Spotify already have all your favorite music, but now Spotify is making it easy for you to enjoy all your favorite Parcast originals, like Haunted Places, for free, from your phone, desktop, or smart speaker. To stream Haunted Places on Spotify, just open the app and type Haunted Places in the search bar. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Parcast, and Twitter at Parcast Network. Until next time, don't believe some of the things you hear. Believe all of them. Haunted Places was created by Max Cutler and is a Parcast Studios original. Executive producers include Max and Ron Cutler. Sound design by Kenny Hobbs, with production assistance by Ron Shapiro, Carly Madden, and Travis Clark. This episode of Haunted Places was written by Lil DeRitter and Jennifer Richey, with writing assistance by Greg Castro. I'm Greg Polson.